The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched as far as the eye could see. 847 different species had representatives sitting in floating chairs that moved slowly around the massive dome. Each species looked different. Some had scales, others had fur. Some breathed oxygen while others needed methane gas to live. But they all followed the same laws. Daeho Kim walked through the entrance wearing his simple blue uniform. He was the human ambassador, and he had been doing this job for 10 years now. Other aliens often looked at him with curiosity. Humans were still new to the galaxy, having joined the Council only 300 years ago. Most species had been here for thousands of years. As Daeho took his seat, he noticed the Valdoran ambassador staring at him. The Valdorans were tall, warrior aliens with gray skin and 4 arms. They had conquered many worlds before joining the Council. Their ambassador, a female named Veltar, always seemed angry about something. The Council meeting began like always. Speaker Tolmex, a wise old alien with tentacles instead of arms, floated to the center of the room. His voice echoed through the dome as he spoke about trade agreements and border disputes. These meetings happened every month, and they were usually boring, but today was different. Veltar stood up during the open discussion time. Her forearms moved as she spoke, which meant she was very upset about something. "I want to talk about the human special treatment," she said loudly. "Why do humans get special rules that no one else gets?" The room became quiet. All 847 species turned to look at the humans. Daeho felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. Speaker Tolmex moved his tentacles slowly. "Please explain what you mean, Ambassador Veltar." "The first rule," she said, pointing one of her 4 arms at Daeho. "Rule number 1 of our Great Council says, never harm the young of species designation, human. Why do human children get special protection? Are Valdoran children not important? Are Zephyrian children worth less?" Many aliens in the room started talking at once. Some agreed with Veltar, others looked uncomfortable. Daeho noticed that the oldest aliens, the ones whose species had been in the Council for tens of thousands of years, stayed very quiet. Speaker Tolmex raised his tentacles for silence. "The first rule has been our law for over 50,000 years. It was written by the founding species of this Council." "But why?" Veltar demanded. "Humans are not special fighters. Their ships are not the biggest. Their weapons are not the strongest. So why do their children get special protection that our children do not get?" Daeho stood up slowly. He had been waiting for this question for years. "I can answer that," he said calmly. The room became dead silent. Every alien was looking at him now. "The rule is not there to protect human children," Daeho said clearly. "The rule is there to protect all of you." Confused sounds came from around the room. Veltar laughed with a harsh sound. "Protect us? From what? From your small human fleet? From your weak human soldiers?" Daeho looked directly at her. "Ask the Makari what happened when they hurt human children." The room became even quieter. Many of the older aliens shifted in their seats uncomfortably. "Who are the Makari?" Veltar asked. "I have never heard of this species." "Exactly," said Daeho. Across the galaxy, on a research station near the edge of human space, Hye-Jin Park was having the same kind of day she always had. She spent her time digging through old files and ancient records, looking for information about how different species first met each other. Hye-Jin was a xenoarchaeologist, which meant she studied the history of alien species. She loved her job because she got to learn about cultures that were thousands of years old. Today, she was looking through some very old council records that had just been released from the archives. Most of the files were boring reports about trade deals and territory agreements. But one file caught her attention. It was marked with symbols she did not recognize, and it was heavily censored. Large parts of the text were blacked out. The file was titled The Soul Incident, Classification Level Galactic Threat. Jin had never heard of any Soul incident. She knew Sol was an old city on Earth, but she could not think of anything that happened there that would be important to the whole galaxy. She tried to read the file, but most of it was censored. What she could read was strange. Day 1. Makari forces attack human education vessel near Sol system. 847 human juveniles confirmed deceased. Human response immediate and censored. Day 2. Human fleet movements detected across 17 sectors. Scale of mobilization unprecedented for minor species. Military command advises censored. Day. Makari homeworld no longer responding to communications. Human forces have censored. Day 72. Makari species declared extinct. Human forces withdraw to Sol system. Emergency council session called to address censored. Conclusion. First rule established by unanimous vote. Human juvenile protection, now highest priority for galactic stability. Jin read the file 3 times. Each time she became more confused. The Makari were extinct? She had never heard of them before. And why would attacking one human ship cause such a big reaction? She decided to look for more information about the Makari. But when she searched the galactic database, she found almost nothing. There were a few brief mentions in very old files, but no detailed records. It was as if someone had carefully removed almost all information about them. The only thing she could find was a short entry that said, Makari, extinct species, former territory now designated as Quarantine Zone 7. Entry, forbidden by council order. Jin had heard of Quarantine Zone 7. It was a large area of space that no one was allowed to enter. She had always thought it was because of some dangerous disease or radiation. She never knew it used to be the home of an entire species. Back. In the council chambers, the meeting was getting more heated. More species were starting to ask questions about the first rule. They wanted to know why humans got special treatment. Daeho tried to stay calm, but he could see that the situation was getting dangerous. He knew some things about human history that most people did not know. He knew why the first rule existed, but he also knew that if he told the whole truth, it might make things worse instead of better. Speaker Tolmex finally called for order. This discussion is getting out of control, he announced. We will form a committee to review the historical basis for the first rule. Until then, the rule remains in effect. But Daeho could see the anger in Veltar's eyes as she sat down. He knew this was not over. The Valdorans were proud warriors who believed that strength was the most important thing. They would not accept an answer that they did not understand. As the meeting ended and the aliens began to leave, Daeho stayed in his seat for a long time. He was thinking about a conversation he had with his grandfather many years ago. His grandfather had been a soldier during the early days of human contact with aliens. Remember, Daeho, his grandfather had said, we are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the smartest. We are not the most advanced. But we have one thing that makes us special. We love our children more than we love ourselves. And if anyone ever hurts our children, they will learn why the rest of the galaxy fears us. At the time, Daeho thought his grandfather was just being dramatic. But now, sitting alone in the Great Council chamber, he began to understand what his grandfather really meant. The first rule was not about protecting human children. It was about protecting everyone else from what humans became when their children were hurt. 3 months after the heated council meeting, life in the galaxy continued as normal. Trade ships moved between systems carrying goods and passengers. Diplomatic meetings happened on schedule. Most aliens had forgotten about the argument over the first rule. But Warlord Kethvar of the Valdoran Empire had not forgotten. He was the military leader of all Valdoran forces, and he was angry, very angry. Kethvar stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking out at the stars. His gray skin was darker than usual, which meant he was in a bad mood. His 4 arms moved restlessly as he thought about the human ambassador's words. "Sir," said one of his officers, a young Valdoran named Grixmal, "the raiding fleets are ready for deployment." Kethvar turned to look at his officer. "Good. And you remember what I told you about human ships?" "Yes, sir. If we find any human vessels, we treat them like any other enemy. No special rules." Kethvar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "The galaxy has been soft for too long. It is time to show them what real strength looks like." Far away, in the outer edge of human space, a large ship called Busan's Dream was making its way to a new colony world. The ship was carrying 200 families who wanted to start a new life on a planet called New Haven. Captain Yunsu Han was in charge of the ship. She was a calm woman who had been flying passenger ships for 15 years. She liked her job because she got to help families find new homes among the stars. The families on board were excited about their new life. Children ran through the corridors, playing games. Parents talked about what they would build on their new world. Everyone was happy and looking forward to the future. 8-year-old Young-Soo Lee was one of those children. He was traveling with his parents and his 6-year-old sister, Bo-Ra. Young-Soo loved science and wanted to be a researcher when he grew up. He spent his time reading books about planets and stars. Bo-Ra was different from her brother. She loved art and spent her time drawing pictures of the things she saw on the ship. Her favorite drawings were of the stars they could see through the big windows. "Look, Young-Soo," Bo-Ra said, showing her brother her newest drawing. "I drew the nebula we passed yesterday. Do you think it looks real?" Young-Soo looked at his sister's drawing and smiled. "It looks perfect, Bo-Ra. When we get to New Haven, you can draw all the new things we see there." Their parents, Kyung-Ho Lee and Soo-Jin Lee, watched their children with happy hearts. They had saved money for 5 years to afford passage on this ship. They dreamed of giving their children a better life on a world where they could grow up in peace. But peace was about to be broken. Captain Yoon-Soo Han was on the bridge when the alarm started ringing. Her navigation officer, Lieutenant Min-Ki Park, looked up from his screen with a worried face. "Captain, we have unknown ships approaching fast. 5 vessels. Military configuration." Captain Han looked at the screen. The ships were gray and angular, with weapon ports visible along their sides. She recognized the design immediately. "Valdoran raiders," she said quietly. "Send out a distress signal immediately. Use emergency frequency 7. "Signal sent, Captain. Should I try to contact the raiders?" Captain Han thought for a moment. Valdoran raiders were known to attack merchant ships, but they usually avoided passenger vessels. Attacking civilians was against galactic law, and even the Valdorans usually respected that rule. "Open a channel," she ordered. The main screen showed the face of a Valdoran officer. His gray skin was marked with scars, and his 4 arms were moving in aggressive patterns. "Attention, human vessel," the Valdoran said. "This is Commander Thokvar of the Valdoran Imperial Navy. Prepare to be boarded." "This is Captain Han of the civilian transport Busan's Dream," she replied calmly. "We are carrying families and children to a colony world. We are not carrying any military cargo or personnel." Commander Thokvar laughed harshly. "We do not care what you are carrying, human. You will surrender your ship, or we will take it by force." Captain Han felt her heart start beating faster. This was not normal raider behavior. Something was very wrong. "Commander, we are a civilian vessel protected under the Galactic Peace Accords. Any attack on us would be a violation of interstellar law." "Your human laws mean nothing to us," Thokvar replied. "Surrender now, or watch your ship burn." Captain Han made the hardest decision of her life. She could not let the families on her ship be hurt. "We surrender. Please do not harm the passengers." 20 minutes later, Valdoran soldiers were walking through the corridors of Busan's Dream. The families were gathered in the main passenger area, scared and confused. Children cried and held onto their parents. Young Su Lee held his sister Bo-Ra's hand tightly. He was trying to be brave, but he was very scared. The Valdoran soldiers looked mean and dangerous. Commander Thokvar walked into the passenger area and looked at all the humans. His eyes stopped when he saw the children. "How many young ones?" he asked one of his soldiers. 89 confirmed juveniles, sir. Ages range from infant to 16 years. Thokvar nodded slowly. Then he did something that shocked everyone, including his own soldiers. He activated his communication device and contacted his commander. "Warlord Kethvar, this is Thokvar. We have secured the human transport. Requesting permission to implement Special Order 7. On his warship, Kethvar smiled when he heard the message. Special Order 7 was a secret command that he had given to all his raiding fleets. It was an order that no Valdoran had ever dared to give before. Permission. Granted, Commander. Make sure to record everything. I want the galaxy to see what happens to those who think they are special. Back on Busan's dream, Commander Thokvar turned to his soldiers. All adult humans are to be secured in the cargo bay. The young ones remain here. Parents started screaming and trying to hold on to their children. Valdoran soldiers had to use force to separate families. Young Su and Bo-Ra cried as their parents were dragged away. "Do not worry, little humans," Thokvar said in a cold voice. "You will be joining your parents very soon." Captain Jinwoo Choi was having a quiet day patrolling the outer edge of human space when the emergency signal reached his ship. The Gwangju's Resolve was a small patrol vessel with a crew of 30 humans. "Captain," called his communications officer, "we are receiving an emergency transmission on frequency 7. It is from the passenger ship Busan's Dream." Captain Choi had been in the human space force for 12 years. He had never heard anyone use emergency frequency 7 before. That frequency was only used for the worst possible emergencies. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. What Captain Choi saw made his blood turn cold. The transmission showed Valdoran soldiers pointing weapons at human children. He could see young Su and Bo-Ra Lee huddled together with other children, all of them crying in fear. Then he heard Commander Thokvar's voice. "This message is being broadcast to all human vessels in this sector. Watch as we show the galaxy that human children are not special. They will die just like any other weak species." Captain Choi watched in horror as Valdoran soldiers raised their weapons. He knew he was too far away to help. His small patrol ship could never fight 5 Valdoran raiders and win, but he also knew what he had to do. Communications. Send an emergency. Message to Earth Command. Use the old codes, the ones they told us never to use unless the galaxy was ending. His communications officer looked confused. "Sir, those codes have not been used for hundreds of years." "Use them now," Captain Choi said firmly. "Tell Earth Command that the first rule has been broken. Tell them that human children are being murdered by Valdoran forces. Tell them to activate Protocol Hanguk." The communications officer had never heard of Protocol Hanguk, but the serious look on his captain's face told him not to ask questions. He sent the message using codes that he had to look up in the ship's oldest files. On Earth, in the headquarters of the Terran Defense Command, Admiral So Young Nam was finishing her daily reports when the emergency message arrived. She was a calm woman who had been in charge of human military forces for 8 years. When she read the message, her face did not change. But her aide noticed that her hands started shaking very slightly. "Admiral," her aide asked carefully, "what is Protocol Hanguk?" Admiral So Young Nam stood up slowly and walked to a special safe in her office. She had never opened this safe before, even though she had the codes for 5 years. "Protocol Hanguk," she said quietly, "is what we do when someone breaks the first rule." She opened the safe and took out a single red folder. On the cover were words written in many different languages. "For the children who will never come home. Admiral..." Nam opened the folder and read the first page. Then she picked up her secure communication device and spoke words that had not been heard for 500 years. "This is Admiral So Young Nam, Terran Defense Command. Authorization code Alpha 77 Hanguk. Activate all sleeping fleets. Activate all hidden weapons. Activate all secret protocols. The first rule has been broken. We are going to war." All across human space, things that had been sleeping for hundreds of years began to wake up. On a space station near Jupiter that everyone thought was a research facility, Dr. Sang-Hoon Kim was working late in his laboratory when all the lights suddenly turned red. He had been studying alien plant samples for 3 years, but he had never seen the red lights before. A voice spoke over the station's communication system. "All civilian personnel report to evacuation pods immediately. This facility is converting to military configuration. Repeat, all civilian personnel evacuate now." Dr. Kim was confused, but he followed the instructions. As his evacuation pod moved away from the station, he watched in amazement as the outer shell of the building began to fall away. Hidden underneath was a massive military installation with weapon systems bigger than anything he had ever seen. The same thing was happening at dozens of stations throughout human space. Research facilities revealed themselves to be military bases. Mining operations showed their true purpose as weapon factories. Even passenger ships began changing, their outer hulls folding back to show military-grade armor and guns. Commander Min-ho Park had been captain of what everyone thought was a civilian cargo ship for 7 years. The ship was called Incheon's Fury, and it carried supplies between human colonies. But when the red alert came through, Min-ho smiled for the first time in years. "All crew to battle stations," he announced. "Activate military configuration." His crew moved quickly and efficiently. They had been waiting for this day for a long time. The cargo containers on the ship's exterior began to unfold, revealing that they were actually weapon systems and armor plating. Within minutes, the Incheon's Fury had transformed from a simple cargo ship into a massive war vessel. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Yuna Choi. "All weapon systems are online. All crew members are at their posts." Commander Park looked at the star charts showing the location of the Valdoran attack. "Set course for the Busan's Dream. Maximum speed." "Sir, that will take us deep into Valdoran territory. We will be heavily outnumbered." Commander Park's eyes were cold and hard. "Lieutenant, they killed our children. Numbers do not matter anymore." Back on Nexus Prime, the emergency session of the Galactic Council was in chaos. Representatives from 847 species were all talking at once, trying to understand what was happening in human space. Ambassador Dae-ho Kim sat quietly in his chair while aliens around him demanded answers. He had been waiting for this day for 10 years, and now that it was here, he felt strangely calm. Speaker Tolmex raised his tentacles for silence. "Ambassador Kim, we need an explanation. Our sensors are detecting massive military activity in human space. Ships are appearing that we did not know existed. Stations are revealing weapon systems far beyond what humans have reported. What is the meaning of this?" Dae-ho stood up slowly and looked around the room. He could see fear in the eyes of many aliens. The older species, the ones who had been in the council for thousands of years, looked especially worried. "The meaning is simple," Dae-ho said clearly. "Someone broke the first rule. Someone killed human children. Now you get to see why that rule existed." Ambassador Veltar of the Valdorans stood up angrily. "This is an overreaction. Warlord Kethvar was simply conducting normal military operations against enemy vessels." "Enemy vessels?" Dae-ho asked quietly. "The Busan's Dream was a passenger ship carrying families to a new colony. There were 89 children on that ship. They were not soldiers. They were not threats. They were children." The room became very quiet. Many aliens were starting to understand that something terrible had happened. You wanted to know why the first rule exists, Daeho continued. You wanted to know why human children get special protection. Now you will learn. But the lesson will cost you everything. Far away, on a research station at the edge of human space, Hyejin Park was working frantically to uncover more information about the Seoul incident. The Red Alert had activated special research protocols that gave her access to files she had never seen before. What she found made her blood run cold. The Seoul incident had happened 500 years ago, during humanity's first contact with alien species. A race called the Makari had attacked a human school ship carrying children to an educational colony. 847 human children had died, but that was not the terrible part. The terrible part was what happened next. According to the files, the human response was immediate and overwhelming. Every human ship in space, including civilian vessels, had revealed hidden military capabilities. The human fleet, which aliens thought numbered only a few hundred ships, suddenly showed itself to be over 50,000 vessels strong. The Makari had been a powerful species with a large empire spanning 12 star systems. They had advanced technology and a strong military, but that did not matter to the humans. In 72 hours, the entire Makari species was extinct. Not just their military, not just their government, but every single Makari in the galaxy. The humans had hunted them down systematically, finding every colony, every outpost, every individual member of the species. The files showed that the humans did not just destroy Makari military targets. They destroyed everything. Cities, farms, schools, hospitals, even zoos and parks. They turned 12 entire star systems into dead space where nothing could live. When other alien species tried to intervene and stop the killing, the humans simply said, "They killed our children. Stay out of our way or join them." The galactic community was so terrified by this display that they immediately created the first rule. They promised to protect human children from all threats, and in return, humans agreed to limit their military and act peacefully. But now Hyejin understood the truth. Humans had not limited their military. They had simply hidden it. All these years, while aliens thought humans were a minor military power, they had been building a secret war machine that could destroy the entire galaxy. On the bridge of the Gwangju's Resolve, Captain Jinwoo Choi was watching his sensors as hundreds of human ships appeared from nowhere. Ships that had been disguised as civilian vessels were revealing their true nature. Hidden bases were launching fighters. Even mining stations were showing weapon systems. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "I am reading over 300. Human ships converging on our position." "Wait. Make that 500. "Sir, they keep appearing." "I have never seen anything like this." Captain Choi nodded grimly. "They are coming for the children, just like we knew they would." The communication system activated, and Captain Choi heard a voice he recognized. It was Commander Minho Park of the Incheon's Fury. "All ships, this is Fleet Commander Park. We have one mission: rescue any surviving children and punish those who harmed them. No prisoners, no mercy, no negotiations." Across the fleet, human voices began to sing. It was an old song that mothers used to sing to their children, a lullaby about stars and dreams and coming home safely. But when 500 warships sang it together, it did not sound peaceful. It sounded like a promise of vengeance. In Valderan space, Warlord Kethvar was beginning to realize that he had made a terrible mistake. His sensors were showing a massive human fleet approaching his territory. Ships were appearing faster than his computers could count them. "Sir," his tactical officer reported nervously, "the human fleet now numbers over 1,000 vessels. And sir, they are not responding to any communication attempts." Kethvar looked at the tactical display. The human ships were moving in perfect formation, advancing steadily toward Valderan space. They were not hurrying, but they were not stopping either. "Send a message to the human fleet," Kethvar ordered. Tell them that the incident with their ship was a mistake. Tell them we are willing to negotiate. Sir, I have been trying to contact them for the past hour. They are not responding to any signals. Kethavar felt a cold fear growing in his chest. In all his years as a warrior, he had never seen an enemy that refused to talk. Even the most violent species would at least threaten you before attacking. But the humans were just coming, silent and deadly. He thought about the human children on the Busan's dream. Commander Thokvar had killed them all while broadcasting the execution to human space. Kethavar had thought it would show human weakness and make them afraid. Instead, it had awakened something that had been sleeping for 500 years. On the bridge of the Incheon's Fury, Commander Park was looking at pictures that his intelligence officer had managed to recover from the Busan's Dream's computer system. Pictures of the children who had died. Young-Soo Lee, age 8, who wanted to be a scientist. Bora Lee, age 6, who loved to draw pictures of stars. 87 other children with names and faces and dreams that would never come true. Commander. Park had children of his own back on Earth. A 10-year-old son who played soccer and a 7-year-old daughter who collected rocks. When he looked at the pictures of the dead children, he saw his own children's faces. All ships, he announced over the fleet communication system. Remember their names. Remember their faces. Remember that they will never go home to their parents. Remember that someone thought it was acceptable to murder them for being human. The human fleet arrived at the edge of Valdoran space like a storm made of metal and fire. Over 2,000 ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons powered and ready. They did not send messages. They did not issue warnings. They simply began to destroy everything in their path. Admiral So Young Nam stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Soul's Memory. It was the largest human warship ever built, and it had been hidden for 500 years inside what everyone thought was a moon orbiting Earth. Now, it flew at the head of the greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral, reported, her tactical officer, Commander Ji-Hoon Lee, Valdoran defense fleets are moving to intercept us, approximately 400 ships across 3 defensive lines. Admiral Nam looked at the tactical display without emotion. The Valdoran Empire had one of the strongest militaries in the galaxy. Their ships were large and heavily armed. Their soldiers were fierce warriors who had conquered many worlds. Signal all ships, she said quietly. Begin the operation. Remember, we are not here to conquer. We are here to end them. The first Valdoran defense line consisted of 120 warships commanded by Fleet Admiral Gorthak, a veteran warrior with 40 years of combat experience. He had fought against 12 different species and had never lost a battle, but he had never fought against humans who were protecting their children. The human ships moved through the Valdoran fleet like death itself, their weapons fired with impossible accuracy. Their fighters moved with coordination that seemed almost supernatural. Within 30 minutes, the entire Valdoran defense line was destroyed. Fleet Admiral Gorthak managed to send one final message before his ship exploded. They fight like demons. How did we not know? How did we not know? The second Valdoran defense line lasted 22 minutes. The third line lasted 18 minutes. The humans did not slow down. They did not take prisoners. They did not stop to recover their own damaged ships. They just kept moving forward, leaving nothing but wreckage behind them. On the Valdoran homeworld of Krextar, billions of Valdorans watched the news reports in growing terror. Their mighty fleets, the pride of their empire, were being destroyed by an enemy they had thought was weak. Warlord Kethvar stood in the central command center of his fortress, watching the tactical displays as the human fleet approached his homeworld. His 4 arms shook with fear and rage. "Sir," one of his officers said nervously, "the human fleet will reach our planet in 6 hours. What are your orders?" Kethvar looked around the room at his officers and soldiers. These were the best warriors of the Valdoran Empire, beings who had conquered star systems and defeated powerful enemies. Now they all look scared. "We fight," he said finally. "We are Valdorans. We do not surrender." But in his heart, Kethvar knew they were already dead. Across the galaxy, other species watched the battle reports with growing horror. The human fleet was not just winning, they were completely destroying everything they encountered. Valdoran. Ships that surrendered were destroyed anyway. Valdoran colonies that had no military value were attacked and wiped out. In the Galactic Council chambers, an emergency session was in progress. 846 species representatives sat in shocked silence as they watched the systematic destruction of the Valdoran Empire. "We must intervene," declared Ambassador Zethrim of the Aquanis Republic. "This level of destruction violates every law of warfare we have established." "The humans are committing genocide," agreed Ambassador Morglex of the Titanium Alliance. "We cannot allow this to continue." Speaker Tolmex looked tired and old as he addressed the chamber. "What would you have us do? Send our fleets to fight the humans? They have revealed military capabilities far beyond anything we knew existed." Ambassador Daeho Kim had been sitting quietly through the entire session. Now he stood up slowly and looked around the room. "You want to stop the humans?" he asked calmly. "Then you should have stopped Warlord Kethvar when he decided to murder 89 human children. You should have enforced the first rule instead of questioning it." "Ambassador Kim," Speaker Tolmex said carefully, "surely your people can be reasoned with. Surely they will accept some form of compensation for their losses." Daeho shook his head. 500 years ago, your predecessors learned what happens when someone kills human children. They created the first rule to make sure it would never happen again. But you forgot the lesson. You thought the rule was about protecting humans. You never understood that it was about protecting you. He activated his communication device and contacted the human fleet. Admiral So-Young Nam's face appeared on the main screen of the council chamber. Her expression was cold and emotionless. "Admiral Nam," Speaker Tolmex said quickly, "the Galactic Council calls for an immediate ceasefire. We are prepared to mediate this conflict and ensure appropriate justice for the attack on your civilians." Admiral Nam looked at the speaker for a long moment before responding. "Justice? You want to mediate justice?" Young Su Li was 8 years old. He wanted to study the stars when he grew up. Bo Ra Li was 6 years old. She drew pictures of nebulas and dreamed of seeing new worlds. They are dead because Warlord Kethvar thought human children were not worth protecting. She paused and looked directly at the camera. "There will be no mediation. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. The Valdoran Empire killed our children, so the Valdoran Empire will cease to exist." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Back in Valdoran space, the human fleet had reached the homeworld of Krextar. The planet was defended by orbital weapons platforms, shield generators, and the last remnants of the Valdoran fleet. It was the most heavily defended world in Valdoran territory. The humans destroyed it all in 4 hours. Admiral Nam stood on her bridge watching as the last Valdoran orbital platform exploded. Her weapons officer, Commander Tae Sung Park, looked up from his console. "Admiral, all orbital defenses have been eliminated. The planet is defenseless." "Begin surface bombardment," Admiral Nam ordered. "Target all military installations, government facilities, and industrial complexes." "Ma'am," Commander Park said hesitantly, "there are civilian population centers near many of those targets." Admiral Nam turned to look at him. "Commander, did the Valdorans consider that the Busan's dream carried civilian families when they attacked it? Did they spare the children because they were not military targets?" Commander Park shook his head. "No, ma'am." "Then we will show them the same mercy they showed to our children." On the surface of Krextar, Warlord Kethvar watched through his fortress windows as human ships filled the sky. Explosions lit up the horizon as human weapons destroyed everything of military or industrial value on the planet. For the first time in his life, the proud Valderan warrior felt true despair. His empire was dying around him, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. He activated his personal communicator and tried to contact the human fleet. To his surprise, someone answered. It was Captain Jinwoo Choi of the patrol ship Gwangju's Resolve. "Human captain," Kethvar said desperately. "I wish to surrender. I will face trial for my crimes. I will accept any punishment, but please spare my people. They were only following my orders." Captain Choi's voice was calm but filled with sadness. "Warlord Kethvar, do you remember the names of the children you killed?" Kethvar was confused by the question. "What does that matter now?" "Young Su Lee," Captain Choi said slowly. "He was 8 years old. He loved science and wanted to explore the galaxy. Bo Ra Lee, she was 6 years old. She drew pictures of stars and planets. They had names, Warlord. They had dreams. They had families who loved them." I did not know their names," Kethvar admitted. "No," Captain Choi agreed. "You did not know their names because you did not think they mattered. To you, they were just obstacles to be removed. Just numbers in a report." Captain Choi paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was harder. "But they mattered to us. Every single child mattered to us. And now you will learn what it costs to take away something that matters to humans." The communication ended, and Kethvar was left alone in his fortress as the human fleet continued its systematic destruction of his homeworld. Across Valderan space, the same scene was being repeated on dozens of worlds. Human forces were hunting down every Valdoran military installation, every government facility, every industrial complex. They moved with machine-like efficiency, showing no emotion and accepting no surrender. But they were not just destroying military targets. They were methodically tracking down every member of the Valdoran species, following them to hidden colonies and secret bases scattered across the galaxy. On the remote world of Thoklar, a small Valdoran colony that had been established in secret. Decades ago, the colonists watched in terror as human ships appeared in their sky. These Valdorans had never been involved in military actions. They were farmers and craftsmen who just wanted to live peaceful lives. It did not matter to the humans. They had broken the first rule. The entire species was responsible. Commander Minho Park led the assault on Thoklar. As his troops landed on the planet's surface, he received a communication from the colony leader, an elderly Valdoran named Velmoth. 3 months after the last Valdoran died, the galaxy was a very different place. The Galactic Council met in emergency session every day, but they could not agree on what to do. Half the species wanted to form a military alliance against humanity. The other half wanted to apologize and beg for forgiveness. All of them were scared. Ambassador Dae-ho Kim had not attended a council meeting since the day the human fleet left for Valdoran space. His office on Nexus Prime was empty. His communication devices were turned off. He had simply disappeared. Speaker Tolmex finally sent a diplomatic ship to human space to try to contact Earth's government. The ship waited at the edge of human territory for 3 days before receiving permission to approach Earth. When the diplomatic ship arrived at Earth, the aliens aboard were shocked by what they saw. The planet was surrounded by defense stations that had not been there before. Massive weapon platforms floated in orbit, their guns pointed outward toward space. The moon had revealed itself to be a gigantic military base. Captain Wextall of the diplomatic ship was an experienced ambassador who had visited many worlds, but he had never seen anything like the defenses around Earth. How did they hide all of this? He asked his navigation officer. How did we not know that humans had this kind of military power? His officer, a young alien named Piprex, looked at the sensor readings with wide eyes. Sir, I am detecting over 5,000 defensive installations in this system alone. And These are just the ones we can see. The diplomatic ship was escorted to a space station orbiting Earth. Captain Wextal was taken to a meeting room where he waited for 2 hours before anyone came to see him. Finally, Admiral So-Young Nam entered the room. She looked tired, but her eyes were still hard and cold. "Admiral Nam," Captain Wextal said carefully, "I bring greetings from Speaker Tolmex and the Galactic Council. We wish to discuss the recent events and find a way to restore peaceful relations." Admiral Nam sat down across from him and said nothing for a long moment. Then she spoke in a quiet voice. "Tell me, Captain, do you have children?" The question surprised him. "Yes, Admiral. I have 3 offspring." "Do you love them?" "Of course I do. They are my family." Admiral Nam nodded slowly. "Then you understand why the Valdoran Empire no longer exists." Captain Wextal shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Admiral, the Council recognizes that the attack on your civilian ship was a terrible crime. But surely the response was excessive." Admiral Nam's eyes became even colder. "Excessive? 89 human children were murdered while the galaxy watched. For 500 years we trusted other species to follow one simple rule: do not harm our children. That trust has been broken." "But Admiral, not all species supported what the Valdorans did. Many of us condemned their actions." "Did you?" Admiral Nam asked. "Or did you just condemn them after you saw what happened to them? Where was this condemnation when Warlord Kethvar was broadcasting the execution of our children? Where was the Galactic Council's response when human families were being slaughtered?" Captain Wextal had no answer for that. Admiral Nam stood up. "Captain, I want you to deliver a message to the Galactic Council. Humanity is withdrawing from all galactic institutions. We are recalling all our diplomats, all our trade representatives, all our cultural exchange personnel. Human space is now closed to all non-human vessels." "Admiral, you cannot mean that. The galaxy depends on human technology, human medicine, human agricultural techniques. Without human participation, many weaker species will suffer." "Then you should have thought about that before you allowed someone to kill our children." "Admiral," Nam replied coldly. She walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "Oh, and Captain? Tell the Council that all the protection fleets we had stationed throughout the galaxy are returning to human space. If any species wants protection from their enemies, they will have to find it somewhere else." Captain Wextal felt his heart sink. Human protection fleets had been guarding trade routes and defending weaker species for centuries. Without them, dozens of minor species would be defenseless against their more aggressive neighbors. "Admiral, please reconsider. The galaxy will descend into chaos without human involvement." Admiral Nam looked at him with something that might have been pity. "Captain, the galaxy had 500 years to learn one simple lesson. Do not harm human children. You failed to learn it. Now you get to learn a harder lesson, what the galaxy looks like when humans do not trust you enough to help you." After Captain Wextal left, Admiral Nam stood alone in her office looking out at the stars. On her desk was a picture of Young Su and Bo-Ra Lee, taken just days before they died. Young Su was smiling and holding a model spaceship. Bo-Ra was showing off a drawing she had made of Saturn's rings. Admiral Nam picked up the picture and spoke to it quietly. "I am sorry we could not save you, but I promise you this. No one will ever again think it is acceptable to hurt human children." Meanwhile, at a research station near the edge of human space, Hyjin Park was working on a new project. She was no longer studying alien history. Instead, she was documenting human history, the real history that had been hidden for 500 years. Her research had revealed the truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. For centuries, humans had been the secret guardians of galactic peace. When aggressive species threatened weaker ones, human fleets would appear to restore balance. When trade routes were attacked by pirates, human ships would hunt down the attackers. When natural disasters struck alien worlds, human aid ships would arrive with supplies and medical assistance. The galaxy had become dependent on human protection and assistance, but most species never realized it. They thought the humans were just another minor power who happened to be helpful neighbors. Now that protection was gone. Within 6 months of humanity's withdrawal, the galaxy began to collapse. The Krillian Empire, no longer restrained by the threat of human intervention, invaded 3 neighboring star systems. The Zephyrian Trade Federation found their merchant ships being attacked by pirates with no human patrol ships to call for help. The agricultural worlds of the Gentle Coalition faced starvation when their food distribution networks, which had depended on human logistics support, broke down. Dozens of minor species found themselves at the mercy of more powerful neighbors. Wars that had been prevented by human diplomatic intervention suddenly flared up again. Trade agreements that had been enforced by human economic pressure collapsed. On the Council world of Nexus Prime, Speaker Tolmex received reports of disaster from across the galaxy. In his private office, he met with the representatives of the oldest species in the Council, the ones who remembered what the galaxy had been like before humans joined. "How bad is it?" he asked Ambassador Yilnith of the Ancient Collective. The old alien's multiple eyes were dim with sadness. "It is as bad as we feared it would be. 500 years ago. The young species have forgotten what the galaxy was like before the humans brought peace. They are about to learn. Can we approach them again? Can we offer them anything that might convince them to return?" Ambassador Yilnith shook her head slowly. "You do not understand, Speaker. The humans did not withdraw because they were angry. They withdrew because they no longer trust us. And once you break a human's trust, especially when it comes to their children, you can never get it back." Meanwhile, on Earth, a new generation of humans was growing up in a very different galaxy. Captain Lee Tae-min, the younger brother of the murdered Lee children, stood on the bridge of humanity's newest warship, watching the barriers that now surrounded human space. These barriers were not just physical walls. They were complex energy, fields that prevented any non-human ship from entering human territory. They also blocked most communications and made it impossible for alien species to monitor what was happening inside human space. The barriers had been built in just 6 months, using technology that no other species knew humans possessed. They were a clear message to the galaxy. Humans no longer wanted anything to do with the rest of you. Captain Taemin held a worn photograph in his hand. It showed his brother Young Soo and sister Bora on their last day alive, smiling and excited about their journey to a new world. They would never see that new world. They would never grow up, never have families of their own, never contribute to the galaxy's knowledge and culture. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving another diplomatic transmission from the Galactic Council. They are requesting permission to send a peace delegation to Earth." Captain Taemin looked at the photograph one more time, then put it away. "Send the standard response. Human space is closed to all non-human vessels. No exceptions." "Yes, sir." Captain. Taemin walked to the observation window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy that had failed to protect his siblings was tearing itself apart. Species that had lived in peace for centuries were now at war. Trade networks that had connected thousands of worlds were collapsing. Millions of beings were suffering because the galaxy had lost its secret protectors. But Captain Taemin felt no guilt about this suffering.